For more on this now, we want to welcome in former State Department Senior Advisor Christian Whiton. Christian, what's your perspective here? Does this feel more serious to you?
Yeah, I think it's serious. Before Monday, this was not the situation we see today. Before Monday, Hamas, which controls Gaza, had not launched a new war against Israel. Of course, there's always a dispute over what's going on with settlements in various parts of Israel. But it was, after all, Hamas who started this by sending missiles at Jerusalem, expanding, as you pointed out, now Tel Aviv and other cities in Israel. There's no indication it'll necessarily escalate too far. The Israelis have certainly made it very clear that they're going to punch back much harder than they are punched, but it's certainly a dangerous crisis.
Didn't it start in the old holy city and on the Mount Temple with protests there before the airstrike started?
Yeah, that I believe was a flashpoint, although, frankly, you could say it started earlier in this administration. I mean, you have to ask why we've had years of relative peace in Israel and entente and diplomatic agreement between Arab states and Israel, previously enemies. What has changed? And you've had a profound change in policy in Washington, where we've started giving money again to the Palestinian Authority, sending much of it through the United Nations. There's been a lot of different messaging. There's been an effort to reach a nuclear deal and give sanctions relief to Iran. And that, at the end of the day, is who is pulling the strings here. Hamas, like Hezbollah to the north of Israel, Hamas in Gaza really is an instrumentality of the Iranian government.
Do you think that's where Hamas is getting its weapons?
Yes, I think that's where it gets its weapons, its funds. In earlier days, some of the Arab states would have supported this, but the Palestinians, by and large, at least their government, and I do feel sorry, certainly for the people in Palestine who are victimized by this violence. They didn't elect Hamas, or at least they only did once. They certainly don't have the ability easily to change that government now. But yes, it's Iran that's funding this.
That election is on hold, along with the Israelis as well, as you know, Christian. What is the next step here, do you think? Are you concerned that, as I saw today, this is sort of on the brink? Could this turn into a full-fledged war, do you think?
I don't think so. There's talk of another intifada, which would mean sort of broad terrorist attacks across Israel. But again, without sort of broader support in the region, I think it'll be hard for Hamas to mount that type of activity. The Israelis, they were very close to a government that included the Arab list for the first time in Israeli history. That deal is probably off now. But I don't think that the conditions are right. You have a very strong leader, Netanyahu, too, is going to push back very hard against violence.
Want to get you on one more thing, Christian. Andrew Yang voiced his support for Israel on Twitter, saying, "I'm standing with the people of Israel who are coming under bombardment attacks and condemn the Hamas terrorists." He got a lot of pushback for that tweet. And missiles are flying, as you mentioned, in both directions, Christian. There are protests going on around the world for both sides. We got a taste of the reaction here. In fact, there's a protest underway in Chicago right now, a pro-Palestinian protest. What do you think was behind Yang making such a bold statement on this?
I think Yang is right. He's speaking with moral clarity. That's probably important to do, to run for mayor of New York City. Now, of course, from other precincts of New York, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from Queens and part of the Bronx, actually sort of criticized Yang, and others, Rashida Tlaib, another congresswoman, basically siding with the Palestinians. I think it's wrong to imply moral equivalence here, and I think we need to do more than just say we want de-escalation, because one side is in the right. It was Hamas that started this, as far as the state-on-state violence, if you will, with the missiles. And there is a difference between an Islamist tyranny, which is Gaza and Hamas, and a democracy which protects the rights of even minorities, even Arabs, not just Jews in Israel. That is the state of Israel. So, I think we should side with the people who are share our values.
Christian Whiton, former State Department Senior Advisor, thanks for your time.
Thank you.